What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Swift video. This is part 16 of Build an Instagram App series. We're going to be picking up exactly where we left off. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe if you've been following along and haven't done so already. And the other thing that I'll share is I'm trying this video out with a new mic setup, so let me know in the comments if the audio is better. I'd love to know so I can make sure these videos are as clear and crisp for all of you guys as possible. So cool. So in the last video, we set up this feed here with all of our cells and sections and all that good stuff. And one thing that I noticed, and I think I brushed over it and never actually got a chance to fix it, was these button sizes were a little off and a little small. So what we actually want to go ahead and do here is go to the IG feed post actions table view cell. And this is the cell where we have our comment button and our send and like button. And on the image itself, we actually want to set a configuration, and the configuration will control what the sizing looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that image right there for the like button out into its own constant property right here. And we want to pass in with configuration, and the config, let me go ahead and also put that config up here. And just to make this line not be obnoxiously long, so we're going to say the configuration is UI image, and I believe it's symbol configuration. And we want the initializer that takes a point and a weight. So we're going to stick with this one. And we're going to have to play around a little bit with these numbers, but let's see what 30 and semi-bold look like. So go ahead and make that update and hit Command R to build and run. And okay, so it's definitely bigger, but it's definitely way too bold. So let's stick with that size there for 30. And let's just see what regular looks like. Maybe the size is the only thing that looked off and the weight isn't really an issue. So, okay, regular is a little better, but still kind of looks a little too bold. I think thin is also an option. So let's see what that looks like. I have a feeling this is going to be too thin. Oh, that's actually perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me grab the config here and the image, and we're going to paste it in each of these buttons. Now, don't forget that we want to change the system name. So this one is message, and go ahead and change this to use the image right above. And the next one here is going to be paper plane for the send action. So go ahead and change that and make this an image as well. And let's see, where else are we assigning an image? I think for now, that's all that we were doing. So prepare for reuse. We don't need to do any of that yet. Go ahead and hit Command R to build and run. And hopefully those buttons look correct now. So let's see. Okay, definitely look much better. They might be too thin, but I'm not going to waste more time on this. Let's truck on forward and let's see what else we need to do. So let me put this in dark mode, make sure that also looks good. Cool. So we set up notifications. We've got the profile. Search. Okay, search and discover rather. So basically on this screen, we want to show a collection view of whatever discover posts we want to surface to the user with some backend logic, as well as when we tap on the search, we want like a cancel button. We want tabs down here for the user to pick what they're searching, either accounts, hashtags, or a location. So let's go and get started on that tab. So we're going to open up the tree here, the hierarchy. Let me go ahead and close the views, the models. We don't want other either. All we want is this folder right here for core tabs. And I keep calling it Discover, but I guess we called it Explore. So let's come in here and let's see what we want to do first. So we've got this search bar. Probably a good idea if we set a search bar placeholder. And we're going to call this search. And let's see. I think we already assigned the search bar's delegate. If we don't, we should do that. So we have a collection view that we created here that we stubbed out. Looks like we don't assign its delegate. So we're going to assign the search bar's delegate. And we're going to use the search bar's delegate functions to essentially get some view interaction going on. So we're going to say search bar delegate is self. And then we're going to want to conform to the delegate. So I'm going to say extension on the Explorer view controller for UI search bar delegate. And the very first function that we're going to want to implement in here is, I believe it's called did click search button. Nope. Let's see, search button, search bar, search button clicked. That's what it is. So as the name implies, this gets called once the search button is tapped. And in here, we're going to first get the text out of the search bar. If there is any text in here, it's optional. So we're going to say search bar.text. And then we're also going to validate that the text is not empty. And let's see, otherwise we can return. And if it's not empty, we can basically prompt a search. So we're going to say query with the text. And we haven't created this query function yet, but it'll basically be a private function that takes in a text, which is a string. And this is actually going to perform the search in the back end. So that's what that looks like. Let's see, we also want, so right now when you click onto the search bar, there's no way to get rid of the keyboard. So when the user hits enter or the search button, we want to get rid of the keyboard. And we also want to show a cancel button here when the user taps into the search bar, just so they can get out of it a bit of a simpler way. So when the search button is clicked, first and foremost, we're going to say search bar, resign first responder, and that'll get rid of the keyboard. And if we command click into the search bar delegate, and let's see what other functions are in here. Let's see, so we want to know search bar should begin editing. Search bar did begin editing. So this one, let's see, called when text starts editing. Sounds like we want to implement this one to show the cancel button. So let's see what it is again. Search bar text did begin. So let's come back in here. We're going to say search bar text did begin editing. And essentially in here, we're going to add a cancel button as a right bar button item when the text begins to edit. And the way we do that is we're simply going to say navigation item dot right bar button item is a UI bar button item. And we're going to create it with a title, and it'll simply be cancel. Style is going to be plain. Target will be self. And action will be did cancel search. And let's see what this is complaining. Missing argument parameter. So right now it's complaining because we haven't created this selector yet. So we're going to create this right down in here. Make sure you annotate it Objective-C so it's recognized as a selector. And in this case, what we will say is we're going to say search bar resign first responder, which is AKA get rid of the keyboard. And when the user also hits cancel, we're also going to get rid of the cancel button because now we're no longer in the search state. So let's hit Command R and let's see what happens and make sure that all of this works. So here we have our simulator. Here is search. So we tap in here and this opens up the search. And if we hit enter, nothing is happening. If we type a letter and hit enter, the keyboard returns. If we clear this out and click in here and click cancel, we also get rid of the keyboard and the button disappears. An edge case I just noticed is if we search something and hit enter, we should still get rid of cancel. So let's see where that's going on. So that's going on right here. So I'm going to say in this one as well, navigation. So actually an easier thing that we could do is this function is already getting rid of the search bar keyboard and the right button item. So we can simply call this function right here instead of duplicating our code, being a little more efficient there. So let's see, what else do we need in here? So we want the collection view, so we stubbed it out. So let's just go ahead and create some mock models and get that rendering so we can actually see it. So here is the collection view. And let's see what we've got going on. So we've got a background color. We've got the search bar at the top. We've gone ahead and created the collection view here. And we have not registered any cells to it yet. So we definitely want to register some cells. So let's go ahead and we're going to register a cell class. And let's open up our views. And we just want the same cell class that we use in the profile. So it's going to be, let's see, cells. And we're going to want, I believe it's called photo collection view cell. So this one right here. And this one you can configure with a user post model. That's what we're going to mock it with. So we're going to configure this cell.self the cell name .identifier. And let's see what else. So in the data source for our actual collection view here, we want to get rid of this and we want to dequeue that cell. So it's going to be collection view, dequeue reusable cell of the type, of the type's identifier for the index path as our type. And this is going to be a guard let because we're casting it. And if that fails, we'll go ahead and simply return a basic table view cell. This should never happen, but we need it so the compiler is happy. Now that we've casted it, we can say cell.configure, and we want to configure it with a model, which we don't have yet. And then finally, we want to go ahead and return the cell. And let's see, that should make everything happy here. So if you hit Command B, you should successfully be building still. And let's go ahead and create some mock models on here. And I believe we already do that on the profile view controller. So I'm going to grab that from in here. Let's see where we do it. So we have user posts. Let's see where we're creating these models. So right now we're returning 30. I see. Okay, so we are using this debug thing for the user post. So we can actually use the same thing back in Explore. So instead of saying configure with model, we are going to say configure debug. Debug is test. And I'm simply going to go in here and return, let's say, like 100. We're going to have 100 cells. But we are eventually going to want a property on here, which is going to be our backing models. Now, obviously, that's going to come from Firebase. So I'm going to say private var models is going to be an array of user post objects. Go ahead and hit Command R. We should now start seeing some cells with our generic image on here. Maybe not, actually. Let's see what we messed up. So it looks like we never assigned a frame to our collection view here. So let's override viewDid layout subviews. And let's go ahead and call super in here. So super viewDid layout subviews, if I can spell it correctly. There we go. And we're going to say the frame of this is going to be the entirety of the bounds. So view.bounds, it'll take up the entirety of the screen. Hit Command R. Let's try that one more time. All right, cool. So first thing you'll notice off the bat, the sizing is like totally screwed up. So we're going to once again do a 3-column setup, and depending on how long the series get, we'll look at custom layouts as well. So to do the 3-column setup, we want to set up the item size on the collection views layout, and this is going to be a CG size of width and heights, and it's going to be width. View.width over 3. And actually, we want to, similar to the profile, subtract 4 to give this a buffer. And we're going to do that for the height as well. We also want to set on the layout, the minimum line spacing is 1. And we also want to set the minimum inter-item spacing to 1 as well. That'll make sure there is some space. There is some space between all the items. So once you set that, go ahead and run. Let's see what this looks like. All right, looking good, looking good. So we've got our collection view here. And maybe I'll add in some more test images in our XE assets because I'm getting tired of looking at the same image over and over again. But anyways, we also want to implement the delegate that we've got going on here for the collection view. So whenever we tap on one of these cells, we should open up the post view controller. So we want to implement did select item. And the first thing we want to do on the collection view is deselect the item. Animated is going to be true. And let's see, what do we want to do next? The next thing we want to do is create the view controller. And that is going to be the post view controller And this gets created with a model, but we're going to go ahead and pass in nil for now because we don't actually have the model. In a normal case, you would say the model, or rather once we have the data, the model is going to be from models, the item at indexpath.row. Right now, if you use this, it'll crash because we've hard-coded the number of items in here. So go ahead and create the view controller like that. And we're going to say VC. Rather, we don't even need to set a title. Let's just simply say navigation controller. Go ahead and push the view controller, animated true. Hit Command R to build and run. And let's tap on one of these cells and let's see what happens. We expect to go to the other controller, which in fact we do. And let's see, when we come through from this one, we also don't show anything because we're not setting an actual mock object here. So that's how we show the post controller. And it looks like up here we're setting a title of post. And it looks like we're not doing that here. I could have sworn that we set up some mock data. Here we go. So it looks like on the notification controller, we have a mock model. So let me come in here and grab that mock model, which is actually right here, this user and this post. So let's go ahead and copy this. I'm going to throw this in our Explore view controller and paste that right there. And we can simply pass in a post here. That way we can get more of our UI to render and see things more so how they'll look once we hook it up to Firebase. There we go, beautiful. Okay, so now we have our buttons showing up. We have our comment section here. We have all of this good stuff, so cool. We want to be also setting a title. So let's see what we've got going on in notifications view controller to set the title. I believe we're just setting it to post directly. So we're setting it to the posts post type.raw value, it looks like. So let's go back to our Explore view controller. And we're going to say the same thing here. And finally, let me actually copy this to the profile view controller as well, just so we have some consistent test data across our various controllers. So cool, where are we creating? It looks like we're creating the post view controller somewhere in here. Let's see. Let's just search for post view controller. There it is. We're creating it right here. We're going to create that mock data right there. And we're going to pass in, instead of nil, we'll pass in post. And the title is going to be post.posttype.raw value. Go ahead and hit Command R to run. Make sure I copy and paste it and break anything. And let's see, we can click on one of these now, and we are good to go. We're now opening this up. Now when we click on the search, we want to show a dim view here on the background, as well as show some tabs up here. So we've got the cancel working and all of that is good to go. Let's work on that dimmed out view and the tabs. So there are a bunch of ways you can probably go about creating the tabs and dimmed view. Let's create the dimmed view and then let's see what the options are for the tabbed experience. So instead of using a search controller directly, which is something that is available, we're going to do this in a bit of a custom way. I'm going to create a private constant on here called dimmed view. It's going to be a UI view. And we're simply going to create a black UI view. And the only thing we're going to do on it is set a alpha to be, I guess, let's go with something like 0.4. So it's transparent. We can always adjust that. And essentially, we're going to show this view. This should be black. We're going to show this view when the search bar comes into focus. So I'm going to go ahead and say view is hidden is true. And actually, the alpha by default should be 0 because we're going to fade it in with a bit of a cool animation. Now make sure we add this as a sub view, and you want to make sure you add it after you've added the collection view so it sits on top. And you also want to set the frame to also be view.bound so it covers the entirety of the screen. Now, once the user begins editing, aka we've also shown the cancel button here. We go ahead and align this a little bit. We want to animate in the dimmed view. So we're going to say UI view Well, first thing we're going to say is the dim view is hidden is going to be false. But we now want to say, we want to update it to alpha so we can actually see it. So we're going to say animate with duration 0.2 seconds. And the animation is going to be self.dimmedView.alpha. And let's go with 0.4 and see what that looks like. So this is actually a trailing closure, so we can actually get rid of that and go ahead and do that. And I'll go ahead and hit Command B, make sure it works. And let's see, we're going to copy this into this dismiss cancel search, or did cancel search. And when we cancel it, we want to do the opposite. So we're going to say the alpha now becomes 0, so it's transparent. And there is another closure we want to implement. So let me actually put that animation parameter label back. All right, animations, we're going to put that there. And there is another closure on here, and this one is for completion. So once the animation completes, we want to set the dimmed view to hidden. So even though it's hidden, let's see, what did we screw up? This takes a parameter, so done in. So once the animation is done, even though the alpha is 0, so it's hidden visually, we also want to hide it in terms of the actual property. So go ahead and hit Command R, and let's see what this looks like. All right, so we're running here. I'm going to put this back into light mode so we can see it more easily. We're going to tap into this, and you can notice the background now dims out. And when I cancel, the background now also becomes light again. The other thing that I think would be cool to do is when the user taps on this grayed out area, or this dimmed out area, that should also dismiss search. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is on the dimmed view, we're going to set a gesture recognizer, which is going to be a UI tap gesture recognizer, and we're going to go ahead and create it with a target. The action will be did cancel search. And let's see, we're going to say gesture number of touches required is going to be 1. And there's also number of taps required, which is also going to be 1. And finally, we want to add this gesture to the dimmed view. We're going to say add gesture recognizer. Go ahead and pass in that gesture. And let's see, what else do we want to do? So we talked about the fact that we want a tabbed view. Before we do that, let's see what this looks like in dark mode. Okay, beautiful. It looks very nice in dark mode as well. You can feel free to change the alpha if you'd like it to be more dim so it looks a little nicer. But the tabbed view, we essentially want to sit on top of this dimmed view. And we want, let's see, in our case, we're going to say users, hashtags or tags, and locations. I think Instagram also lets you search like all and also like other things. I forget what the fourth thing is they let you search, but we're just going to do those 3. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to leverage another collection view for it. So I was considering making it a bit of a naive UI view, but I think we can create a collection view. And we're actually almost at time, so let's see if I can get through this fairly quickly. So we're going to say private var tabbed search collection view, and this is going to be similarly a collection view. And we are going to want to configure this collection view. So right now we're doing all of this stuff in view.load, and it's getting quite messy. So what I'm going to actually go ahead and do is I'm going to say configure explore collection, and we're going to make that its own function down here to keep things compartmentalized. Configure explore collection, paste that in there. And let me also consolidate this search bar stuff that we've got going on. We're going to say configure search bar. Let's create that down here as well. Whoops. Private func, configure search bar. Go ahead and paste that there. And let's see, let's also configure this dimmed view in its own method. So it's generally good practice to break apart your code and just make it a little more legible and more organized, frankly. I also noticed that you've also probably seen me add private to all of these functions. It's really good practice to have proper access control as you're writing. It just makes your code cleaner, easier to understand, and honestly just more accurate, right? Not having this is not functionally incorrect, but this is pretty explicit that this function is private. So if you go ahead and hit Command B, just make sure everything is still building after we moved things around. And we're going to create another function here, and this is going to be configure tabbed search. Go ahead and call it down here. And in here, we're going to say tabbed search collection view is a UI collection view with a frame and a layout. Frame is 0, layout is layout. And we're going to create that layout up here like we did down below for that other collection view. So we're going to use a flow layout. And let's see, we're going to say layout.item size, which is important in this case. Now we want 3 tabs. So how are we going to calculate the item size? For now, let's be simple and just say view.width divided by 3. And the height we're going to say is 52. And we're going to have to adjust these in a little bit, but we'll take care of that momentarily. Let's make sure the tab search is hidden by default. And we want to add this as a subview. So we're going to say view, add subview, tab search. Make sure you go ahead and unwrap it before you try to add it, since it is in fact optional. So we can't add it until we unwrap it. And we're going to want to delegate in a data source as well, of course. So go ahead and say dot delegate is self and dot data source is self. And we also want this to be horizontal, right? Because there are tabs that go horizontally. So we're going to say scroll direction is horizontal, even though we don't want any scroll to actually occur. But let's see how we did. So right now it'll be hidden. Once the tabbed search, once the search bar starts editing, aka we have entered this function, we want to show the actual tabbed search. So once again, we're going to want to put that parameter back here. So this is animations. And we're going to say done in. So once the animation is done, we're going to say self.this is hidden is false. And that's how we're going to actually show it. And similarly, once we cancel the search, the first thing we are going to want to do is go ahead and hide the tab search collection view. And we're going to say is hidden is true. And let me just go ahead and register. We're going to want to create a custom cell basically for this. But for now, what I'm going to do is let me just actually set a background color to this guy so we can see it, since this video is getting a little longer. And we can pick up in the next video, but that's now yellow. Go ahead and hit Command B, make sure everything's working. The other thing you're going to want to do, the 2 things before we run it, is we want to set a frame. So the frame of this collection view is going to be interesting. The frame is going to be CG rect. X is going to be 0. Whoops, let's go ahead and find that right constructor, this one right here. Y is going to be view dot safe area insets dot top. Width is going to be view dot width, and height is going to be 72. The reason we did 72 is because each cell will be 52, and we want a 10-point buffer at both the top and the bottom of the cell. So I'm going to go ahead and line break this to make it look nice. And we also want to implement the the data source for all of this stuff. So right now in the data source, we have these returns, assuming we have one collection view. What we can do here is we can say if collection view equals the tab search collection view, I'm going to return 0. Otherwise, it'll return 100. Same thing in here. We're going to say if the collection view is a tabbed collection view, go ahead and return a standard cell. And we can ignore this for now. Actually, we might as well just copy and paste it since we're doing it already. but that's how we're going to handle the different tab in here as well. We're going to say if the collection view was the tab collection view, we want to change search context. Go ahead and hit Command R to build and run, and let's see if we can get this collection view to actually show up. So we come here, when we hit this, okay, interesting. So we don't actually see the collection view. So let's see what's going on. So we are definitely adding it as a sub view, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, we add it right there. We set a background color to it. We're setting its delegate and data source. And let's see, layout subviews. Did we set it to be hidden? We're saying is hidden is true. Let's make it is hidden false to begin with, just to make sure it's showing up. Go ahead and run it. And we should see it actually showing up right here, but it looks like we don't. So that leads me to believe that our layout code is inherently incorrect. So we're configuring it. So we're adding it there. So let's come into here and say the tagged collection view frame is view.bounds. And let's see what that looks like. That should definitely be showing up on our screen. And it, in fact, is not. So let's go ahead and comment this out. And I think we can probably pause it here. We can debug in the next video so this video doesn't become an hour long. But basically, our tabbed search should be showing up once we're in the search state right about here, right below this navigation bar. So we'll go ahead and debug it in the next video and start putting together more of the UI. And I think we're pretty darn close to actually getting most of the UI set up. And at that point, it's just a matter of wiring up Firebase and setting up some analytics, and we'll basically have our Instagram app. Actually, the one thing we didn't do yet, which I'm super excited to have a bunch of videos on, is the camera setup. So look forward to that. Once again, if you haven't destroyed the like button, make sure to do so as always. Comment any questions, suggestions, feedback, if you just want to say hi. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.